भगवान श्री योगी रामसूरतकुमार की जय। सर्वं योगी रामसूरतकुमारार्पणमस्तु। On this holy, auspicious day of Jayanti of Shri Ramachandra Prabhu, we have been able to sing the divine name of Shri Ramachandra and his avatar, Yogi Ramsuratkumar. We have offered them this Nama lotuses at the lotus feet of our Bhagwan, who is none other than Shri Rama to all his devotees. We all remember how when Yogi Ramsuratkumar Bhagwan went to Kanchi Mat, Shri Paramacharya came out and said, Surya Vansha, meaning the solar dynasty. This is what Shri Ramachandra of Ramayana belonged to. In just one word, Shri Paramacharya had confirmed, given the testimony to the divinity that was walking in the disguise of the divine beggar of Tiruvannamalai. What a word. One word gave complete description of Shri Rama, Yogi Rama. So much so that Shri Ganapati wrote an article, Rama of the solar dynasty, and Shiva of the lunar dynasty, or you can call him Rama, Shiva, Krishna. It's one Chaitanya. Don't we all sing that Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Guru Sakshat Parabrahman. It is the Parabrahman that came out in the form of the Trinity, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. And it is the Parabrahman that comes in the form of our Guru. We remember in the photos that you can find in the books of Shikiva Jagannathan, K.V. Jagannathan, 1024 songs. He had sung extemporally in front of Bhagavan whenever he visited Sannidhi Street house. And also you can find some of the photos in Shri Kaylor Wadlington's book, Yogi Ramsuratkumar, the Godchild, with captions. Now, you could very well see, especially there is one photograph of Bhagavan. He would be standing under a tall, thin tree with his staff of the peacock feathers and strings hanging from the top. And the whole thing, the whole bundle, would be slightly curved on top, and a string would be hanging from there. It would look just like a bow. You can just one look at it, you would get the identity of the divinity. Though of course Bhagavan would be in the attire of rags, torn clothes, torn and dirty, and the carelessly thrown turban and the ruffled hair, with complete indifference to his appearance. Yet he would be holding the bow of Sri Rama, of Ramayana. I remember once the neighbors, we have the first gate, the main gate, through which all the people, all the visitors come. There is another gate, the second gate, which was actually the first gate open. When the ashram started, that was the gate that was open, and afterwards, the gate that is now operating was used. Now, just one house or two houses away from the gate, there is a house in which the couple, Shri Ranganathan and Vijaya, they are living. Once, when they had gone to Madurai to attend a function, they came across a very highly intuitive devotee of Lord Muruga. They were familiar with him already, and when they expressed their anxiety about having bought a land in this area where the ashram is, a very lonely area at that time, there was no building at all. It was barren, and the sun was beating down mercilessly, and rocks everywhere, hardly any vegetation. So when they bought it, they were not convinced that they had done the right thing. They were very doubtful and even regretted. So when they expressed it to that Muruga devotee who had come there, he was surprised. He said, "What are you saying? You say it's a lonely area. I see a Rama's temple just near you, near your plot. People coming and going, and Shri Rama, none other than Shri Rama of Treta Yuga, Shri Rama of Ramayana, moving about, blessing people. Can't you see? There is a Rama temple. Only this Rama looks a little older now. And when he spoke with such emphasis, they were surprised. It was their turn to be surprised. They said, "No, what are you saying? There is no temple at all there. It's a barren land, only rocks and thorns, and completely lonely." Again, this Muruga Mama, the Muruga Bhakta said, "No, just think carefully. There is a Rama's temple. I am able to see that." And immediately it flashed in Vijaya's mind that she had come to hear that Yogi Ramsuratkumar had bought this land and that he was building an ashram there. And then she knew immediately he was referring to none other than Bhagwan Shri Yogi Ramsuratkumar. She was so happy, and she came back to the ashram and told us all about it. And Bhagwan, when he heard about it, he laughed so much. Bhagwan seemed very happy that somebody had identified him, his true being. So you see, today we shall recall 2 or 3 more incidents where it was revealed time and again to his devotees that Yogi Ramsuratkumar is none other than Shri Rama of Ramayana. Many times I had seen him in Rama Bhava. Even when he stood there, you could see one foot a little ahead, little in the front, and the other foot a little behind. And the way he walked, the torn, dirty shawl, the way he would throw it on his shoulder and walk so majestically, it would look as if the Emperor Rama was walking. Such was the beauty and the richness of this divine beggar in rags. Many people fell for him. What an absolute contrast, the way he was dressed up and the way he walked about. The world emperor, carrying his scepter in one hand, walking so majestically. That's how we all came to him. And there was an incident. We used to have breakfast. Bhagwan used to come to the ashram at 7 o'clock. Promptly. Would go straight to the breakfast hut. And then some of us would be sitting with him for the breakfast. Once, Shri Mani, the then trustee of the ashram, reported that many peacocks were coming from Sri Lakshmana Swami's compound. At the time, everybody was warned that we should not keep any animals, either in personal houses or in the ashrams. They had to be handed over to the forest department. So when the discussion came upon the animals, Shri Mani reported that these peacocks, they do not live here, but they come from Sri Lakshmana Swami compound, and there was no checking them. Bhagwan smiled, a very mischievous smile, a bewitching smile, and said, "Mani, Whatever comes to Sri Lakshmana Swami has to necessarily come to Ramaswami. Don't you think so? And then he burst out laughing, drawing all of us with him. So this was a hint straight from the horse's mouth, as they say, about his true identity. And then there was the incident of Sri Shankar Rajulu, who brought some school students in a bus to Tiruvannamalai to visit Sathanur Dam on an excursion. When he stopped the bus in front of Bhagwan's place, Sannidhi Street house, Bhagwan came out to bless the children. And unexpectedly, he got into the bus and said, "Shankar Rajulu, this beggar is coming with you." And then when they reached Sathanur Dam, of course, to the great delight of Sri Shankar Rajulu, when they reached the dam, there was water, but that was a holiday, and all the boats belonged to the government, so there was nobody to operate them. So when Dr. Shankar Rajulu was wondering how to go on the water with Swami, out of nowhere appeared a villager who offered to take them in his country boat. We call it parisil in Tamil. It's round-shaped, wider. It's a country boat. So Professor Shankar Rajulu was absolutely delighted. He looked at Bhagwan, and Bhagwan nodded his head with a smile, and then they boarded it. As they were halfway through on the water, Dr. Shankar Rajulu strangely began to think. Somehow it reminded him, looking at Bhagwan just sitting opposite him, he was thinking, this must have been the way when Sri Rama travelled in the boat with Guha, the hunter, the king among the hunters, the king of the tribes there living at the border of Ayodhya. And suddenly Bhagwan too smiled. And Bhagwan said, "Dr. Shankar Rajulu, don't you think that this reminds us of another scene from Ramayana? Sri Rama travelling with Guha." And of course, Dr. Shankar Rajulu knew instantly that Bhagwan was revealing his true identity to him, that it was Sri Rama who was travelling with him in that country boat, that Bhagwan was comparing Dr. Shankar Rajulu's devotion to that of Guha. Professor Shankar Rajulu used to tell us often the story, and we would be absolutely delighted. No matter how many times we would listen to such stories in those days, we would listen to them again and again with shine in our eyes. And Dr. Shankar Rajulu had a way of narrating a story, a very fine style of narration. I remember another incident that Shri Balachandran of Chennai had started with his family towards Tiruvannamalai for the darshan of Bhagwan at Sannidhi Street house. But he had a dilemma. His grandmother, a very conservative conventional lady. Even her style of wearing the sari was so much like those conservative people. A widow who had to remove her hair and would wear the sari, a sari which would be like a sannyasi's, slightly different, because a widow has to live the life of a sannyasi. And she was a strict disciplinarian. She used to observe all those disciplines prescribed in the Shastras for a widow. So he was very afraid to take her with him, but she insisted upon coming. Because she said, "You've been talking about a Mahatma. I would like to see." She was 80 years or so, and she was the first one to come and sit in the car. Shri Balachandran could not avoid her, but all the same, in his heart, there was anxiety. He was thinking, how would I introduce him to her? He would be in rags, very dirty rags at that. And he has not taken bath for so many years. And above all, he would be smoking. How could I introduce him as a great master to my party, to my grandma? Was his worry. But then he was helpless. He had no choice either. So they came down to Tiruvannamalai, and he parked the car near Sannidhi Street house. His wife, his father-in-law, everybody got down. When his grandma was about to get down, he said, "Grandma, there is no need for you to get down. We will be back soon. Why do you have to walk? It will take only a few minutes. We'll be back. We'll be right back." So he tried, but in vain, her accompanying him to Bhagwan's house. But then the grand old lady was very obstinate. She would not hear of anything that Balachandran was going to say. She got down and started to walk. No, I think in the beginning she said yes, and then she was seated. When these people entered Sannidhi Street house without the grandma, Bhagwan, of course, in the beginning didn't say anything, but no detail ever escaped his attention. So in the course of the conversation, he was asking Balachandran, in all innocence, "How many of you have come?" And then Balachandran was forced to say, because when he said the number, one was less. And then immediately Bhagwan said, "Go bring her. Bring your grandma here." Now you see, he cannot disobey the command of Bhagwan. So he walked all the way to the car and said, "Swami wants to see you. Come, grandma." He took her there, and then a very delightful scene unfolded. They had taken a carrier of food, and there was also a banana leaf. So Bhagwan looked at the grandma, gave her a special seat right in front of him, and then said, "Grandma, you have to serve this beggar the food from the carrier." So here Balachandran was thinking, my God, what would she do now? How is she going to react? Because after the grandma came inside, Bhagwan smoked 2 cigarettes right in front of her. And now Bhagwan got ready to take food and insisted only the grandma should serve him. And to the great surprise of Balachandran, his grandma did not object to it at all. With great devotion and attention, she began to serve. She served everything, every item there on the leaf, and Bhagwan was eating. Both of them were very natural. His grandma was not reacting to the appearance of Bhagwan at all, despite his smoking, despite the dirty clothes. What was more, Bhagwan wanted to give his leftover to his grandma. The grandma was very conservative in her ways. She would not take the leftover of anybody. It was one of her disciplines. So here once again, Balachandran was agitated as to what would happen, how his grandma would react. But very docile, obedient and eager, grandma immediately got up and with great devotion and humility, she stretched out her hand and Bhagwan put it there. And immediately she put it into her mouth. So after the session was over, when they came out, Balachandran was trying to explain away all that happened, thinking that his grandma might take it out on him once they were in private. But to the great surprise, to the great delight, the joy of all those people, all that the grand old lady said, "What are you saying, Balachandran? It was Shri Rama who was seated there. I saw Shri Rama. I had darshan of Shri Rama today. It was he who was eating from the leaf. Great was my fortune today." So you see how Bhagwan was, I shouldn't say cheating all of us, though that would be the very fitting word, because many of us were taken by his appearance. And many thought he was only a dirty beggar. And especially his smoking was off-putting many people. But here, the grand old lady who belonged to the old discipline prescribed in the Vedas should find Lord Shri Rama seated there, accepting service from her hand. So we could also remember Shri Rama, who was walking about in the guise of a dirty beggar. There is just one more incident I would like to narrate. One can go on doing it. I remember another incident when the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu had visited Government Arts College playground where they had arranged for a meeting for her. In fact, the previous day we got the news that she was going to visit Bhagwan. They took permission also from Bhagwan. But then the circumstances, for some reasons, Bhagwan did not want it the next day. But after she finished and left the place, all those crowds, they started to flow through the Sudama Street. It was like a flood. And as they were coming, some of them knew Bhagwan had shifted from Sannidhi Street to this place, and they started to bang on the door, calling out, Panka Baba, come out, come out. Luckily that day Sadhu Rangarajan ji was there with Bhagwan. So Bhagwan said, okay, now we cannot stay inside. These people have come and they would behave in any way they like. There is no saying what they would do. So he's got up. He said, Devaki, you lock the door, stay in. Don't come out for any reason. Don't open the gate at all to anybody. And then he went out with Sadhu Rangarajan. And as soon as they were out, the crowd surrounded them. And the crowd was flowing and therefore they had to move. They were forced to move onward. The crowd pressed upon him, pushing him ahead, and they were going straight. And as Bhagwan started to walk in the front, surrounded by all these people, more and more people were crowding, almost pressing upon him. He was walking, hoping that there was a house there with a huge garden and the iron gate. So as soon as he went there, he called out the devotee who was living there. A Ramana devotee has been living there for quite a few years. But for some reason, strange reason, that devotee was so frightened, he locked the gate and went inside. So there was no way Bhagwan could move out at all. He was pinned against the iron gate. And then the more and more crowd pressing upon each other, jostling, pushing each other, were crowding into the place, and some of them were shouting, Panka Baba, Panka Baba. Inside Sudama, there were 2 or 3 people with me. We went upstairs to the terrace, and from there we saw a flood of heads crowding around. We couldn't see Bhagwan, but then the gate, and Bhagwan was standing there. I held my breath for fear that what if people pounced on him? If something should happen to Bhagwan, though Sadhuji was there with him. Somehow there was this fear in my heart. I started to chant his name, his own name, praying to him, Bhagwan, please save yourself. How ignorant of me. But then what happened was, Bhagwan took the stick from Sadhu Rangarajan ji and held it high like the bow of Shri Rama. And then the magic took place. Within minutes, the crowd became quiet and people began to leave, disperse. It was Shri Rama once again, with his bow and arrow. He was Raja Rama. For all appearances, it was an iron gate which would not open to him in this vulnerable position, and the crowds were almost upon him, pressing down. But there stood Shri Raja Ram, the Emperor Ram, holding his scepter in hand, and the crowds became quiet and they left. They began to disperse. After Bhagwan returned to Sudama, Bhagwan described to me after people left, but before that, what happened, within minutes we found that devotee, Ramana devotee, coming to Sudama and then fell at his feet of Bhagwan and said, Swami, please forgive me. I did not open the door for fear that those crowds would enter. I have done something terrible. Please forgive me, forgive me. He started to sob with profuse apologies. But all that Bhagwan said was, don't worry, it's all right, sit down, and Devaki, bring some coffee for him. So you see, there was another most important incident I think I should finish with in one or two sentences. It was early morning, about 3 o'clock, and I was sitting there in the veranda of Sudama doing japa. And Bhagwan was still lying down. We used to get up at 2:40 itself. But that day, Bhagwan was still lying down. And suddenly, there was a radiance about him with a tinge of greenish blue, green predominant, the color of Sri Rama as described in the scriptures. I was wonderstruck, stunned. I just looked on and on, unable to believe my own eyes. A very strange sight. But then, strange things always happened. They were the order of the day. I should not have been surprised at all, but then every time it was new. It was strange. Every time it would take us unaware. And here I saw Sri Rama lying down. And then as soon as Bhagwan got up, of course the radiance disappeared. Bhagwan got up very casually and then said, Devaki, did you tear the paper from the calendar, yesterday's date? And then I tore it off, and then I found the word Ramanavami staring at my face. Oh, that was Sri Rama consciousness all around, the current of Sri Rama consciousness, and I saw Sri Rama's radiance that day. Bhagwan was still Bhagwan lying down, but that was the radiance of Sri Rama's tinge. Now this Bhagwan is here right in front of us. We shall offer today's prayers at his feet. There is nothing that he cannot do. There is nothing that he does not know. So let's appeal to his generosity and compassion. Bhagwan, kindly intervene immediately to free the world from the dreadful grip of this Rakshasic virus, Asuric virus, and its variants. And please bring back dharmic normalcy like Ramarajya in the world. At one point, I heard Bhagwan say, what is Ramarajya? In Ramarajya, people would be chanting Ramanam and doing everything for the sake of Rama. Their every action will be Rama Seva. So we beg you, Bhagwan, to bring in that Ramarajya in this world. Just as you killed Ravana and his relatives, it is time you came and did this. We beg you, Bhagwan, kindly root out the fear, the panic of the pandemic, and stop the spread of the diseases, enter the medicines so that they would work, kill all these viruses. And Bhagwan, we beg you again that all who have been afflicted with this corona must get beds in the hospital, and the medicine must reach them, all those people who need it badly. And Bhagwan, again, all those laborers, the volunteers who labor day and night at the very risk of their life for the sake of the other lives, helping the corona patients. We beg you for their protection. We beg you again for a lift economy. And above all, we beg you again and again for constant remembrance of your name, for the attitude of being good instruments, fitting instruments in your hands to go about our life. And Bhagwan, please give us that mindset where we would be able to see only your blessing in every event of life. Jai Yogi Ramsuratkumar.
Yogi Ramsuratkumar